Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. That's Danielle.
And she's Justine.
And this is That's What They Called News. Switched it up a little bit there again. So I have a funny, what are the, anecdote to tell you.
Okay.
So I was having kind of a rough day yesterday. Mm-hmm. My memory was kind of not functioning. I had gotten very little sleep the night before. Let's just be clear on that one. Mm-hmm. So I went to go get gas, and I pumped my gas, and I went inside, and I got a couple drinks, and then me and my daughter went back out to the car, and I got in my car, and I left. Mm-hmm. And then I heard a and I was like, oh shit, what was that? I drove away with the fucking nozzle still in my car.
Oh, friend. Oh.
Thank God they make the breakaway hoses now. Mm-hmm. Because it was done pumping and everything. Like, there was no fuel running through it. So it just snapped the hose off at the connection like it's supposed to. And all they had to do was clip it back in. But it was that one guy at Casey's that always gives me shit. He wears a do-rag, you know? So they had to call him in because he's like the acting manager right now. And so she was trying to describe who I was. And she was like, that one girl who always gets that thing. And he was pulling in at that moment, and he saw me through the door, and he bent over in laughter, like lost his shit. And I was like, I'm sorry. He's like, you know you have to work tomorrow night now. And I was like, I'm not going to do that, but okay. Yeah. I never, ever, ever in a million years thought that that would be me. Thought I would be that person.
Right.
But I did. It happened.
It did.
Nothing broke. My car was fine. The pump was fine. Everything was fine. We drove into town this morning, and I said, oh, look, they fixed the pump. And then I sent John inside to get something because I'm like, I don't think they want to see me for a little while. And he goes, are you sure it's not just because you don't want to see them?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a little bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
By my own stupidity. It still isn't as bad as the other accident I had at the gas station back when I was like 15. Do you remember that one?
I'm sure I will as soon as you start telling me.
When my dad and my sister were inside. I was about 17. I was a senior in high school.
Yes,
it was lunchtime. We had open campus lunches.
Yeah.
And so I went down to the gas station, and I needed gas in my car. And I was just going to grab some lunch. My dad and my sister were there on their lunch break from the farm. And so I pulled up to the gas pump, got out, realized I was on the wrong side. Me, being a 17-year-old girl, was like, I'll go around to the other side of the pump. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work, guys. So I go to turn around to go around the other side of the pump. But in the meantime, I hit my dad's pickup. Really slowly, really gently. I had one of those bras on the front of my car. Do you remember the bras?
Yes. La bra.
And it tore the bra on my car.
Oh, man.
But it didn't dent anything. And so instead, I look at the window, and I can see my dad and my sister and whoever they were eating lunch with just laughing. So I just left.
You hit and run your dad's vehicle.
And I went home. Oh, God. I just went home. I was like, I'm done. I'm out.
Oh, man.
So my dad comes in. Of course, my dad, he's laughing. You got anything to say to me? And I looked at him and I said, what? You saw it. Like, you know exactly what happened. What do I need to say about it? Oh, sorry for hitting your pickup. It didn't hurt anything. I got out and checked. He's like, yeah, thanks for checking. He's like, I would have bought you lunch. I'm like, no, you fucking wouldn't have. I was not willing to pay that price for lunch. That pure embarrassment. I was 17 years old. Like, so dumb. But also, I haven't gotten any smarter, it seems.
That's okay. When I was about 17, I was dating this guy, and we were at my house, and we decided that we needed drinks from the gas station, and I did not have a car. So he handed me his pickup keys and said, just run up there and grab us something. I was like, are you sure? Right? Because that's a big deal. Your boyfriend letting you drive his truck.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was a dually.
Oh, God.
And I had never driven a dually before. So I get up to the gas station, and normally...
For anyone who's listening who doesn't know what a dually is, it's a pickup that has 4 tires on the back axle instead of just 2.
It's 2 that are side by side, not one in front of the other.
Yep.
So that makes the ass end of the truck exceptionally wider than a regular vehicle. So normally I would just pull in between the fuel pumps and the building, and it was all covered, and that was my typical parking spot. Well, there was a car there, and so I was like, okay, I'll just park out in the middle. And then that car was pulling away, so I made the split second decision to whip around and park in my normal spot.
Yeah.
Well, I cut it just a little too close.
Oh, no.
This was a white pickup.
Oh, no.
And the posts were painted red.
Oh, God.
And so I think I'm doing great, and I was not. I just hear this crunch.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
I was like, I can't just stop. I can't back up. So I just kept going forward, and I got past, and the truck is off of this post, and I get out and I'm looking, and I am freaking out. Oh, no. And of course I didn't have a cell phone. And so I go inside and I ask whoever it was that was working if I could use the store phone, and I called my house because he was sitting there. And of course,
phones.
Yeah,
house phones.
Yeah.
All right.
And of course he did not answer my house phone because it's not his house.
Right.
And so the answering machine picked up, and so I'm just like, hey,
machine.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the days.
Hey, I know you're there. I need you to pick up the phone. I really need to talk to you. Can you please just pick up the phone? This is really important. Please pick up the phone. And he answers, and he's like, hey, what's going on? It's like, so, I fucked up.
I done fucked up.
And he was like, what happened? And so I explained the whole situation to him, and I was so amazed because he was like, it's just a truck.
Oh my gosh.
Can you still drive it? I was like, absolutely. He goes, well, just come on home and we'll take a look and see what can be done. And I was just like, really? Like, that's all? That's what you, okay. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Oh, God.
Just come to the house. So I went back down to the house, and he came outside and he looked, and he's like, oh, that's all? You made it seem like you ripped the whole fender off. And I was just like, well, that's the way it felt.
I really thought I did.
And then I come to find out that is not actually his truck. It's his dad's truck.
Oh, no. And did he tell his dad that you did it?
I think so. Which I guess it all turned out okay because his dad cracked a joke and said, well, I always wondered what this truck would look like with red stripes down the side. It's like, what an amazing set of people.
Good
like,
people.
They really were.
Good people.
They were super good people.
Oh, my goodness.
But yeah, that was my super embarrassing gas station.
You know what? We all have moments where we're just like the rest of you. Yeah. You know? We're all a little bit dumb.
Absolutely.
It really keeps things entertaining.
It does.
God, I don't remember what it was, but it was like right after I had done something really dumb. And then John did something really dumb. Mm-hmm. And I started laughing, and I was like, I'd be mad except for I just fucked up really bad. So, oops. Oh, speaking of cars, oh my God, I've just had the worst luck with cars. Okay, and we're going to wrap it up really quick. But, so I had to go on a work trip, and I was like, I'll just take my own car. Mm-hmm. And, but my car, the alignment was a little bit off, we just had a couple tires replaced, and so the alignment wasn't quite right. So I took it into the shop down there because they could get you in and out.
Yeah.
And so he pulls it in, and he's like, I can't align this for you. And I was like, why? Mm-hmm. And he was like, because you got a control arm broken.
Oh, God.
and again, if you don't know what the control arm is, not going to get super technical, but it essentially connects your tire to the frame of the car or the axle. Mm-hmm. So it's not a great deal that it's broken.
Yeah.
I had just driven 4 hours
with a broken
control arm. And he's like, I really don't want to let you leave. And I'm like, I really don't want to.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to get the control arm repaired while I was there on my work trip, Yeah. $700 later.
You should have just taken a work car.
Fuck. Right? Jesus Christ.
But if you hadn't, you probably never really would have figured out that the control arm was broken until the next time you took the car to the shop. So, I mean, I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. I'm really just glad that I made it there safely.
Yes.
And that they found it and fixed it. And they had such wonderful service. They were such wonderful people. I gave them a 5-star raving review on Google because that's what we should do when we have good service.
Yes.
You should tell people about it.
Not just complain about the bad stuff.
Right.
Tell everybody when it's a good thing.
Yeah. So they were super, super nice. They were like my dad. Like they were just like, we'll get you taken care of, like.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was really cool, especially with it being in a city. Mm-hmm. Like, and they were I could even hear them like making like arrangements to like pick people up and drop people off and pick up cars. And I thought that was just a small town thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize that happened in cities. I don't know if it happens in a lot of cities, but it did there. And I thought that was really cool.
That is.
So, okay. On to the stories of the day.
What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about women's suffrage.
Ooh.
So, one of my favorite subjects. I am a not-so-closet feminist. But actually, the day that this is scheduled to come out is my birthday, August 18th. Mm-hmm. So, August 18th is also the day that the vote was passed to allow women to vote.
Nice.
So, I feel like that was really appropriate. And
it's
I had
a doubly important day.
Yeah. So maybe that's why I'm really a feminist at heart. I don't know.
It's a good possibility.
So today we're going to talk about some women's suffrage.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's go. From the Evening Public Ledger, September 4th, 1917. Suffrage banner bearers nabbed. 10 women arrested in demonstration in front of White House, Washington, September 4th. Arrests followed in quick succession this afternoon when militant suffragists made any attempts to plant suffrage banners in front of the stand erected in front of the White House, from which President Wilson and the Allies diplomats were to review the Selective Service Parade. 2 militants set up their banners in front of the stand and for 15 minutes were unmolested. One banner was addressed to the president and proclaimed the injustice of conscripting men while denying their mothers a voice in the government. The other standard was simply the suffrage colors, purple, white, and gold. Also maybe why purple is my favorite color. The first 2 women arrested were Miss Eleanor Calnan of Methuen, Massachusetts, and Miss Edith Eng of Jamestown, New York, Miss Lucy Brannan of Connecticut, and Mrs. Adams of Norfolk took their places carrying similar banners. When the police began clearing the street for the parade, they were asked to make way. They refused and were arrested. Mrs. Annie Arnale of Wilmington, Delaware, and Mrs. Dorothea Bartlett of Putnam, Connecticut, carrying suffrage colors, were arrested while attempting to cross the street, as were Miss Margaret Fotheringham of Buffalo and Miss Julia Emery of Baltimore. Maud Malone of New York, who has a national reputation as a Wilson heckler, was the next to fall into the net, with her being arrested, Mrs. William Wallace Chisholm of Huntington, Pennsylvania. So I just want to shout out to those women real quick. Mm-hmm. Thanks, ladies.
Yeah.
For doing the work. All right. This one comes from the Evening Public Ledger on November 12th, 1917. 41 suffragists found guilty. 3 Philadelphia women among those convicted of picketing. Sentence deferred. With one exception, bond of convicted was supplied by Miss Mary Ingham. Washington, November 12th. The fourth, it says fourth one. I think it's supposed to be 40. The 41 women arrested last Saturday afternoon for picketing were found guilty in police court this afternoon. Judge Maloney did not sentence the women, but took the case under advisement and said he would give it, quote, deep consideration before making the sentences known. 3 women from Philadelphia, Mrs. Lawrence Lewis, Miss Elizabeth McShane, and Miss Catherine Lincoln, were among those found guilty. Attorneys for Mrs. Harvey Wiley, wife of the pure food specialist, gave notice of an appeal, and she was released under a $100 bond. The others among them were Mrs. John Winters Brannan, social leader of New York, and Mrs. William Kent, wife of the former California congressman, were released under the $1,025 collateral put up by Miss Mary Ingram of Philadelphia when they were arrested on Saturday. I just want to point out the irony that these women are fighting for their rights while being called in the newspaper by their husbands' names.
Yeah.
Just what a time to be alive. Okay. The suffragists were arraigned in court in groups of 4s, 6s, and 8s, just as they marched in different groups to the White House Saturday. And after each group was tried and found guilty, they were asked by Judge Maloney to step aside until 41 had been tried, when he said he would pronounce sentence. By his careful questioning, each of the prisoners was as to whether they had been arrested and sentenced before for a similar offense. It was plain that Judge Maloney intended to give, quote, repeaters a sentence of perhaps 6 months, and first offenders only 30 days in jail. Court opened promptly at 9. But it was 11 o'clock before the cases of the suffragists were reached on the dockets. During the long wait, the prisoners and their friends who crowded the court amused themselves, exchanging newspaper clippings about their arrest, knitting socks and sweaters, and discussing the recent suffrage victory in New York. Many of the prisoners brought suitcases, handbags, and bundles containing toilet articles, clean underclothing, and other articles which they intended taking to jail, as they were determined not to pay fines.
They were prepared.
These ladies are like, take us in, sir.
Yep.
Dr. Wiley aids his wife. Dr. Harvey Wiley of Pure Food fame, I really want to know what this Pure Food fame is that Mr. Wiley is famous for, was in court with Mrs. Wiley, who was among the picketers, and took a seat alongside his wife on the front bench. With him was Raymond B. Dickey, a Washington lawyer, who had been retained as counsel for Mrs. Wiley. Police Sergeant Lee, in charge of the detail which made the arrest, was the first witness for the government. He said the 41 suffragists bearing their banners came to the White House in 8 groups at 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon, at a time when the government departments were letting out. By stopping at the west gate of the White House, they had drawn a tremendous crowd which obstructed the sidewalks. He had told each of the pickets that they were violating the law, he said, and directed them to move on. Only one of the 41 made any response, and when they declined to move, they were arrested and taken in patrol wagons to the station house. The one picket who made response has replied, quote, I cannot move until I get directions from our leader. The suffragists called witnesses who said the crowd was not dense and that it had formed because the news had been spread broadcast that the picketers would be arrested when they appeared, rather than because the picketers were there. Pickets had stood at the White House gates for 6 months, and nobody paid attention to them, the witnesses said, until it was announced that they would be arrested, when great crowds gathered. Mrs. John Winters Branham of New York, who was in the first group arraigned, made a scathing address to the court when Judge Maloney asked if any of the women wished to say anything before sentence was pronounced. Holds president responsible. Quote, we will hold the president responsible for this whole thing because he will not urge the passage of equal suffrage legislation for us, shouted Mrs. Branham. Your courts, your policemen, your jails cannot stop us in this effort to obtain equal suffrage. Whatever the verdict of this court may be, we shall go on picketing. We shall picket again at once and keep it up. The responsibility for this thing will rest upon you and not upon us." This aroused the ire of Judge Maloney, who handed out a virulent rebuke for what he declared their wanton and willful breach of the laws of the country. "Do you think it is the duty of the police to make the crowd move on and leave you women standing there with your banners?" he asked. "I've tried to explain to you in your various trials here that you are breaking the law and that the practice must be stopped. You are attacking the foundations and standards of democracy, and we shall not permit you nor any other organizations to stand above the law. To say your organization is to adopt methods which the statutes condemn is a dangerous doctrine and an outrage against this country. Look over in Russia," he went on. "See what happens there. When the people abandon law and order and there is nothing but a mob and everybody stands on rights he imagines he has. I tell you, it's dangerous." He then adjudged them guilty and said he would announce sentence at the conclusion of the trial of them all. Mrs. William Kent of California, wife of the tariff commissioner and former congressman, was in the second group arraigned. "I want to tell you what the Democratic Party has arrested me for. Or I want you to tell me what the Democratic Party has arrested me for." Had me arrested for. Good God. I really messed up that quote. Shouted Mrs. R.B. Quay of Salt Lake City, who was in the next group, when asked by Judge Maloney if she had anything to say. "I come from Utah, where I have been a political worker for the Democratic Party. I came here to help in this cause, and now I want to know why the Democratic Party had me arrested." This question convulsed the courtroom in laughter, and the bailiffs rapped and shouted for order. Judge Maloney also bent almost double with laughter. When he recovered his judiction composure, he said, "I'm sure I don't know, madam. You'll have to ask somebody else."
That's rude.
When the group was called, which Mrs. Wiley was a member, lawyer Dickey said he would represent Mrs. Wiley, but wanted to explain carefully that he was not representing the other women. Mm-hmm. He asked for a separate jury trial for his client, but this was denied by the court on the ground that the statutes do not allow a trial by jury in a breach of traffic regulation case.
So that's what they got in trouble for, was a breach of traffic?
Yes.
They were holding up traffic, so they got in trouble.
Yep.
Not because they were picketing.
No, because peaceful protest is legal. It's a constitutional right.
Huh. Interesting.
Uh-huh. All right. This one comes from the New York Tribune, August 19th, 1920. 27 million women have the right to vote. So this was published the day after they passed it. Tennessee's ratification gives 9.5 million more the right to vote for next president in the fall. The fight began in 1848. Campaign opened in Seneca Falls, started movement which enveloped the world. Women's suffrage was won for the women of all states in the Union when Tennessee, the 36th state, ratified the federal amendment. Approximately 27 million women will be entitled to vote in the presidential election this fall. State suffrage already had enfranchised 17.5 million, and ratification adds to this number 9.5 million. This marks the end of the women's campaign for the ballot, which began obscurely in a little meeting in Seneca Falls, New York in 1848, swept across this country, and extended the political freedom of women to nearly every other nation in the civilized world. 15 states in the United States already had conferred full franchise rights on women, and in 15 others, women were entitled to vote for president and for certain municipal offices, but not for members of Congress. The suffrage amendment resolution was passed by Congress on June 4th, 1919. Its wording was that of the original Susan B. Anthony amendments, drawn up by the pioneer suffragists soon after the Civil War had enfranchised the colored people and following the form of the 15th Amendment. It reads, quote, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. Congress shall have power by appropriate legislation to enforce the provisions of this article. Special session called." The fact that many state legislatures did not hold regular sessions in 1920 and would be required to call special session if the suffrage amendment were to become effective in time for the presidential elections was the last great obstacle the suffrage movement had to overcome. Even in states where the women had voted for many years, and where ratification was more or less an accepted fact, the governors hesitated to call special sessions for reasons of economy or because of local political issue, which threatened to become embarrassing. Governor Allen of Kansas came to the rescue and showed the way out of the economy tangle by announcing that the members of his legislature would attend its special session on June 16th at their own expense. In Oregon, however, their special session for January 12th was not called until the women had offered to raise a fund of $6,000 to defray the expense. Washington won a black mark in suffrage history by refusing to call its special session. It was not until the Victory Convention in Chicago sent an open letter to the women of Washington declaring that the situation was critical that Governor Hart issued a call for the session on March 22nd. One gives life for cause. There was one page with a black border in ratification history. For in Oklahoma, a young suffrage worker, I'm going to guess this name, Aloysius Lark Miller, died as a result of her devotion to the campaign. Although ill with influenza, she disobeyed her doctor's orders and attended a Democratic county convention where ratification was being attacked by the state's attorney general. While I appreciate the devotion, I don't agree with going places when you have the flu. I think we learned that lesson during COVID. Just stay home if you're sick.
Well, and when did the whole Spanish influenza thing happen? Wasn't that in
1812 or something, wasn't it? Or 1912? That was before this.
Yeah, but you would think that they would have also learned
right?
by then. Yeah.
She engaged in debate with him and succeeded in having the suffrage resolution adopted by a 2-to-1 vote. She died of pneumonia the next day. Suffragists had been aware of from the beginning that the real struggle for ratification would come with the last states. So powerful were the influence brought to bear upon members of the West Virginia legislature that the large majority estimated in the suffrage confidential poll dwindled to a tie. Senator Block, who was in California, was hastily summoned home, and so the suffrage bill passed with 1 vote to spare. The battle for the 36th state lasted more than 5 months, costing women several states their votes in the primaries and imperiling their participation in the presidential election itself.
Wow.
I'm just really glad that we get to vote now.
Yeah.
And I'm advocating for all women to get out there and cast their votes in November.
Yes. It's important.
Yes.
You should do it.
But before you do it, please do your research.
Yeah.
Please look at the policies. Please look at the political stances people take. I don't care who you're for or who you're against, but be educated and decide for you and your family what issues matter the most to you. Not to your parents, not to your church, not to your neighbor. Vote for you and your family.
Yes. Okay.
On to you.
I have a story from the Evening Missourian, August 26th, 1920. Women's right to vote, now part of the Constitution.
Woohoo!
Proclamation signed by the Secretary of State Colby Early this morning at home, prepared last night. Leaders cheer when told news. Are disappointed when informed there would not be public ceremony. No leader selected. By United Press, Washington, August 26th. The right of women to vote became a part of the Constitution of the United States here today when Secretary of State Colby proclaimed the 19th Amendment a part of the Constitution. The proclamation was signed early this morning at the home of the Secretary. It had been prepared last night. Suffrage leaders were summoned to the State Department as soon as the proclamation was signed and notified of the action. They cheered wildly when they were told that the abandonment had been made operative.
Okay.
They had been expecting a public ceremony, however, and seemed to be quite disappointed when they learned that there would be none. They asked for a repeating of the ceremony in order that moving pictures could be taken and that suffrage leaders could take part in the ceremony. Colby replied that he would consider the matter and retired to his private office. The suffrage leaders then held a jubilee at their headquarters.
Good for them.
Yeah. Miss Alice Paul announced that they would not relax their vigilance in the least to see that the women of the country did not lose their right, which they had recently won. Colby later announced that the reason why there was no public ceremony was because he was not sure which group of leaders should take part in the ceremony. He announced that different groups of women had argued the question last night for a long time without coming to any conclusion whatever. Okay. All right. No party because you can't decide who's going to lead it.
Yeah. Meh.
Yeah. All right.
How do you like them apples?
Well, my next story is slightly different. Too much ice cream sickens 90 soldiers.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. Combined with, quote-unquote, soft stuff
What?
and heat, it disabled company at Camp Augusta by staff correspondent, Camp Hancock, Augusta, Georgia, September 4th. 90 men of Company M of the 18th Regiment, Pittsburgh, were suddenly taken ill this morning while at work policing their tents and their regimental area. The men were suffering great pain and nausea from severe stomach disorder when a hurry call was sent throughout the camp for surgeons. Brigadier General Logan, commanding the 56th Brigade, who is quartered in the field, was notified and his automobile was pressed into service for the transportation of surgeons from various parts of the camp to the company streets. The ill men were removed from their cots and were taken to shady places under the trees where the air was cooler than in camp. Officers declared the food served the men today was not responsible for the disorder from which they suffered. It was pointed out that the soldiers had been virtually idle since Saturday last and probably had consumed too much, quote-unquote, soft stuff and ice cream in Augusta during the 2 days.
Soft stuff.
I don't know.
Pudding?
When the sun struck them today, they suffered the results of their Coca-Cola and ice cream. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, guys. You're soldiers in the U.S. military. You should know better. Didn't
Right?
your mama ever teach you?
Apparently not.
Well, now you know.
gosh.
Now you know my mom was like, I think that might be too much ice cream.
Surgeons said the men would be ready for work tomorrow morning. The illness crippled the company today, for only 43 men out of the company of 139 were fit for duty, and was reported that men of Company C, 16th Regiment, also were ill, but surgeons denied this. Oh my gosh.
Is that the end of that one?
That's the end of that
So I have a
one.
funny story. So My daughter is also, she has celiac disease. She also is lactose intolerant. And it's getting worse. She can generally manage it. Like, you know, you might have a little ice cream, might get a little tummy upset. But, you know, most of us are kind of like that. You know, we just got to decide what's worth shitting about. I actually saw that in a meme the other day.
Perfect.
That wasn't mine. I wish it was. But anyway, so she was going to VBS. And, of course, the meal is provided and we have to pack her lunch. So the first night I packed her a sandwich and a yogurt. And she said that night that she had a stomach ache. And I said, well, maybe it was because of the yogurt. I know it wasn't gluten because I packed your lunch. I said, but maybe it was the yogurt with the dairy.
Sure.
So the next night we bypassed the yogurt. And so we do the sandwich and some crackers and cookies instead. So then she comes home and she goes, I'm going to have a stomach ache tonight. And I said, why? I said, we didn't pack your yogurt. And she was like, I ate 2 bowls of ice cream.
Oh, no.
That's when you have to know when it's worth shitting.
Yep.
She was like, I'm fine with it. I'm fine.
Okay.
I don't want a yogurt upset stomach. That's not worth it.
No.
But 2 bowls of ice cream, I'll be fine.
So, gosh. Just so you know, they do make lactose-free ice cream.
Oh, no, I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
Well, just not at VBS.
That's true. All right. Well, she made her bed.
Yep. I told her, I said, I don't want to hear it tonight because the night before she called me from her phone.
Oh, my gosh.
And was like, literally, our bedrooms are right next to each other.
Yeah.
And she was like, Mom, my tummy hurts. And I was like, you know, so I went in and got her some medicine. But then I was like, that night I put her to bed. I was like, I don't want to hear about your stomach hurting. There's your medicine.
Like you.
Do not wake me up.
Yeah. You made your choice.
Anyway, she decided to wake me up about other things.
Ugh. Kids.
Meh.
All right. I have another one.
All right.
I have no idea what this is about, but we're going to find out together.
Let's do it.
Okay. Used blazing shirt to flag the express.
Oh.
Okay. Philadelphian stops Tran, I think it's supposed to be train, to bring to hospital 2 injured companions. A blazing shirt was used as a torch by Homer Reeves of 5619 North 4th Street to flag a Reading Express train about 15 miles outside Ocean City to bring 2 men injured in an automobile accident to a hospital in Camden. Reeves was driving the machine when it skidded on a sandy spot on the road near Petersburg and rolled down an embankment near the railroad track. The injured men are W.H. Gray and Walter Waldis. They are in the Cooper Hospital, Camden, where Gray's condition is said to be serious. Running into a sandbank between Glassboro and Clayton on the Glassboro Pike, a machine containing 9 occupants driven by Samuel Plaum turned over. The machine was en route to Camden from Atlantic City. 5 persons were injured and taken to the Cooper Hospital. The injured are Plaum, Mrs. Kate, 40, injured internal injuries. Rebecca Plaum, 6, scalp wounds, and a probably fracture of the skull.
Probably.
Yeah.
Not sure. Maybe.
It's a possibility. Annie Plaum, 8 months old, internal injuries, and Rose Plaum, 4, cuts of the hands and head.
Oh.
That's sad.
Little babies.
Oh. But that's all.
Man, I heard about a recent accident near where we are, and this, I'm only saying this is why we track each other with GPS.
Okay.
He didn't show up. His family tried calling him. He could apparently hear his phone ringing but couldn't find it. Ended up, I'm assuming, passing out. I don't know the truth. But they didn't find him for a couple hours later when they went to look for him, and he was like very close to his house.
Oh, wow.
So, like, I mean, if that happened to, like, anyone in my family, you know, I'd be like, I'm expecting you home, and I call you, and you don't answer. I'm tracking you down on your GPS, and I'm finding out where you are. And if your car is not moving, I will be coming to you if you don't answer me. So, That's why.
Yeah. I was talking to Eldon about you coming up today, and he asked like when you would be here, and we talked on the phone, had our little conversation, and then I don't know, he asked another question, and I was like, I'll just look on Live 360, and he was like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm tracking that bitch.
That's right. We're just tracking each other.
Tracking that bitch.
Yeah, so like my sister told me the story, and my daughter was like, no, my daughter wasn't like anything I was like to my daughter. I just told her, like, I understand you're almost 13, like you want to be free, but I swear to God, if you ever shut off your GPS location, I will kill you.
Yeah.
I don't. That's not true. I wouldn't do that. But, you know, like I told her, actually, I think the words were, I will beat you into the ground.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to need your location.
Yeah.
But
dear Lord, a couple weeks ago, I had gone to the grocery store because Eldon was coming down and we were going to have dinner and the whole thing. And I bought 2 little cartons of ice cream and I put them in the freezer and didn't think anything of it. And we had dinner. We were laying in bed watching TV. Like, I rolled over and was like, you know what sounds really good? Some ice cream. And he's like, you want me to go get you some ice cream? I was like, that'd be so great. So he got up and he went out to the kitchen and he comes back in and he's like, babe, where's the ice cream? I can't find it. I was like, it's in the bottom freezer because my freezer has, 2 sections. And he's like, are you sure? Did you didn't put it in like the mini fridge that's in here? I was like, no, why would I do that? And I was like, it's right there. So I go out there because now I'm second guessing myself, right? Like, did I really buy ice cream? I'm not sure. Gaslighting myself here. And so I go out there and I open the fridge and I'm like, yeah, they're right there. Not there. They were gone. Absolutely gone. So I called my son. Because he's typically the food thief. 16-year-old boys, you know.
Absolutely.
I'm like, hey, did you take the ice cream? He's like, no. I was looking for ice cream earlier, but there wasn't any, and I was kind of sad about it. We have ice cream? I was like, not anymore. So then I decide to call my daughter, and she doesn't answer. And so I call her again, and she doesn't answer. And I text her, and she doesn't answer. And so I know she's with her boyfriend, so I call her boyfriend, and he doesn't answer. And I call him back again, and he doesn't answer. And I called her again, and she doesn't answer. And so I get on Live 360, and I see exactly where she's at. I know exactly where she's at. And I'm calling and calling. I power dialed the 2 of them for probably 15 minutes. Okay. I was just going to ask her if she took the ice cream. Like, did you take the ice cream? Like, could you bring it back? That was all. That if she would have just answered the phone and been like, yeah, I'll bring it right back. Like, that would have been the end of it. But then they didn't answer the phone. So after power dialing them, like, Eldon was using the bathroom. And so I put a bra on. I put shorts on.
Mom put a bra
fucking
on.
Ready to go because
Business.
I was pissed because she was not answering the phone.
Oh, yeah. No, I know.
Like, I paid for this bitch so I can get a hold of you. So finally she calls me back. And she's like, hey, I just saw that you tried calling.
A bazillion times.
That was pretty much what I said. I was like, I just power dialed you and Pete for the last 15 minutes. And you're just now noticing? She's like, well, we were watching the show. And you know that I never have my ringer on. And I was like, well, where's that fucking watch that you begged me for your birthday? How come you don't have that
not on your wrist?
She's like, well, it died and I keep forgetting it in my car. I need to charge it.
I just don't feel like they were actually watching the movie.
You know, I don't want to think about it. But right. Anyway, she was like, so I asked her, I was like, the original reason I called was to see if you took the fucking ice cream. But now I'm just annoyed. So, and she's like,
come home now.
She's like, well, yeah, I did. And I didn't really think about it, but I can bring it back. And I was like, yeah, you have 5 minutes to walk through this door. And if you don't walk through that door in 5 minutes, I will come get you. And she was like, what is wrong?
Answer the phone.
I was like, I told you. I just tried calling you and your boyfriend for 15 minutes straight.
Yeah.
And neither one of you answered the phone. Mm-hmm. And so now you have 5 minutes to be in this house.
Yeah.
And she showed up to the house and she walked into my bedroom and she's like, I brought the ice cream back. Nice. Go to bed.
That reminded me, though, of not being able to find it. I remember now what the dumb thing John did was. I don't know if that was this episode or the last episode.
I don't remember.
But anyway, I remember. So I am a super forgetful person. Mm-hmm. If I'm on one track and you interrupt me, that track is gone and now we're going this direction. So I absolutely was not mad by this. I just laughed really, really hard. Okay, so I was at work, and it was the first night that we were going to have no kids for a while. And I was like, I just really want pigs in a blanket. Can't have pigs in a blanket because I can't ever get gluten-free crescent rolls.
Yeah.
Again, if you're not from the Midwest and you don't know what pigs in a blanket are, it's hot dogs wrapped in crescent rolls. So I just really wanted that. So he went to the grocery store and got the stuff. Mm-hmm. And I got home and I was going to start making the stuff. Mm-hmm. And I opened the fridge and I was like, didn't you say you went and got the hot dogs and stuff? And he was like, yeah, I did. They're in there. And I was like, I don't think they're in here. Like, sometimes I'm blind, but I really don't see them. And so he gets up and he looks in the freezer and he looks in the cabinet. And I was like, are you sure you got him? He's like, I know I fucking bought him. He left him in the car.
Oh, no.
And that was one of those days where it was like 107 degrees outside.
Did the crescents explode?
Yes.
Oh.
They were in the plastic grocery bag.
Yeah.
Though, so
it was all contained.
It wasn't that big of a deal. And I didn't get my pigs in a blanket that night. He said he would go back to town, but he also got a frozen pizza that was like half already.
Oh my God.
So he just ate the pizza.
Oh.
The crust wasn't quite as crispy, but I think it was okay.
Oh.
But I've forgotten a lot of things in the car, and a can of biscuits is not
one of them.
It was really funny, though.
That's so great.
Especially because it was, like, so hot outside.
At least it wasn't like a can of pop or something that exploded everywhere. No, at least the biscuits were contained in the grocery bag. But, so good. Dude. Yep.
He was like, oh, my God, I can't believe that did that. I'm
good
like,
job, John.
Dude, I would have done it.
Yep.
That is 100% something I would do.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Man. Or like you go out to eat and you take your leftovers home and then you don't take them in the house.
Or do they ever make it?
Oh my gosh.
Not if it's, they barely make it off the table if I'm the one in charge of grabbing the leftovers.
Go through all the trouble of boxing it up and then just leave it on the table at the restaurant.
Back to my house and I'm like, oh, where's my leftovers? I'm like, God damn it, I left them sitting on the table. Every freaking time.
Well, shit.
Okay, back to our stories.
Okay.
Sorry for that intermission. I hope you had a giggle at my expense.
All right. So this title's fun. Slain at breakfast table.
Uh-oh.
Bum, bum, bum. A woman kills husband after customary blessing. Rutherford, New Jersey, September 4th. A talk about religion, a quarrel. The husband, in a rage, picked up his 2-year-old daughter and threatened to throw her at his wife. What? Then a shot across the dining room table. All of this within a few minutes after the customary blessing had been asked at breakfast.
That's the headline? We haven't even gotten to the story yet?
This is that's part of the story.
Okay.
This in brief is what Mrs. Catherine Hartwig told the police here today in explaining why she shot and killed her husband Christian Hartwig. Christian was in a rage, Mrs. Hartwig said. He had caught up little Eleanor and was swinging her at arm's length. He was trying to throw her at me when I fired. What?
Wouldn't you have been a little bit scared you were going to shoot your kid?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's an airplane. I'm sorry if you can hear that. But, oh my gosh.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, you don't be throwing my babies around, but also I'm not going to shoot you while you're holding one.
No.
Probably wouldn't ever shoot anyone.
I'm definitely not that good of a shot.
I told John I wanted a BB gun because we have a really bad rabbit problem. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's not really going to kill him. And I'm like, I'm not even going to hit him.
Just scare him.
I just want to hit the dirt next to him. I'll scare him.
Yeah.
And he just laughed at me. And I was like, please.
That's rude.
Please get a BB gun.
Now I'm going to get you a Red Ryder BB gun for your Christmas.
My birthday's coming up.
I know, but you're missing the point.
Oh, okay. Fine. Yeah. Christmas story. I get it.
Okay, thank you. Shoot your eye out with that. Okay. I have 3 more little ones.
All right.
Okay. Man faces fine because pigeons come back.
No. Fucking pigeons.
Newark Francer gave birds... hold on. Yeah. Newark Fancier? I don't know.
Fancier, I think.
Okay.
I think it's like some sort of a smith of some sort. I'm going to look it up.
Okay. But gave birds away on court order, but they returned.
A fancier is a connoisseur or enthusiast of something, especially someone who has a special interest in or breeds of a particular animal.
Oh, a fancier. Yeah. Got it. Okay. Homing pigeons, which persist in returning to their home in violation of a court decree, are in danger of being permanently deported. How do you deport pigeons? Oh my gosh. So ruled Judge Quigley in New Jersey yesterday. Neighbors of John C. Weiner complained that his pigeons were a nuisance. Weiner, who is a professional trainer of wild and domestic animals and who boasts that he has disposed of many lions, bears, and even pigs, informed the court that although he had given his pigeons away in accordance with the city ordinance, they persisted in flying back to their home roosts. Judge Quigley extended a week's grace to Weiner in which to deport the birds or be fined.
I heard a story or a meme or a TikTok or a Reddit thread. I don't know what it was, but it's in my brain. And so it came from somewhere, but it was a story about like this guy's like kept selling his homing pigeons and they just like kept selling the same one because it just kept coming back. Oh my gosh. He's like, I've sold the same pigeon like 10 times.
Wow.
It just keeps coming home.
That's funny. Okay, now we have a woman accused of fraud. Buyer says she sold 1914 auto as 1917 model. Mrs. Beatrice Alexander is held in $2,000 bail in the Long Island City Jail on a charge of grand larceny in connection with the sale of an automobile. When arraigned before County Judge Humphrey in Long Island City, Mrs. Alexander was accused of selling to Martin G. Knorr a car which Knorr said she represented to be a 1917 model for which she had paid $7,600. Knorr said he paid $3,000 for the car. Later, he learned that the automobile was a 1914 model and was worth, actually, he alleged, about $2,000. Mrs. Alexander entered a plea of not guilty.
I mean, how can they blame her? She's just a simple little woman.
Right?
She just doesn't know.
Too bad we don't get to know whether or not she got away with it. But
right?
You know,
dang it. Her defense is, I'm dumb.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. My husband didn't tell me.
That's right.
Okay. A boa constrictor takes charge of the ship at sea.
Oh, dear.
That was an evil giggle. It was. Oh, my gosh. With the arrival yesterday of the freight steamship Bolton Castle from Singapore, a tale of unusual hardship in which a giant boa constrictor played an important part was told by members of the crew. Laden with a miscellaneous cargo of wild animals for a local circus, the freighter was brought to her pier off Staten Island. According to Captain Alexander Howe, the boa constrictor, measuring 35 feet from nose to tail tip, started a rumpus when an assortment of pigs shipped for use in her feeding were diverted to other purposes by the steward. 300 miles out of Hong Kong, he said, the snake broke loose, and after mounting the bridge of the ship, took command. Efforts to subdue her proved unavailing. Food she refused to take, and even declined an unusually fat orangutan that had been pushed toward her. Oh, God. It was not until she wound her body about the ship's rail, Captain Howe said, and fell asleep that more venturesome of the crew succeeded in ridding themselves of the monster.
Did they dump it over the board?
Chopped away rail, and she slipped into the sea.
They cut the whole fucking rail off because of a snake.
This is a big fucking snake, though.
Yeah, but it's a boa constrictor.
Yeah, it will kill you, friend.
Yeah, but it's not gonna like...
It will kill you.
It's not like a rattlesnake where it's like super fast and you can't see it coming. Like,
they are pretty slow. But also their mouths are super icky, yucky.
Yeah, but they don't bite you first. They wind you up first and then go...
They typically bite you and hold on to you while they wrap their bodies around you.
That's probably true. That's probably right.
And so if you don't die from the constriction, you're going to die from all the icky, yucky germs they have in their mouths.
I think all of those sailors could have taken on a boa constrictor. And I think cutting away the whole railing may have been a little extreme.
Maybe they felt about snakes the way you feel about birds.
They probably did.
Okay.
Although I'm getting better with birds. I just don't want them like by my head.
Yeah.
That's the hard part for me. Oh, that was a good one.
That was
a lot of laughing.
It was fun.
All right. Well,
okay.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us on TikTok and Facebook at That's What They Called News and Twitter.
Facebook and Instagram.
Why do I keep saying TikTok?
I don't know.
Because that's how I spend my lives these days. My lives.
Multiple. Are you
all
a cat?
Meow. Oh my God. So mewing.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, the kids mew these days. So my daughter asked me, she's like, do you even know what mewing is? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, what did you just do? I was like, I mewed like a cat. And she's like, no, like mewing. So she showed me, and now I do it all the time. Whenever her friends are around, I just do it all the time. Like, but only when her friends are around.
Yeah.
And she hates it so much.
I don't even know what we're talking about. What the hell is mewing? What is that?
I don't know why. It's like you're like good looking, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a different mewing story super fast.
Okay.
I was walking back from like lunch or smoke break or something at the hospital. And anyway, just walking down the hall, and there's this elderly gentleman being escorted to like an outpatient thing. I don't know. Anyway, his phone is ringing, but his ringtone is a cat meowing.
Oh no, really?
And so all you hear is meow, 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 meow. And all the nurses at the nurses station are like, is there a cat in here?
That's so great.
It was hilarious.
My dad's ringtone is a freaking like fire alarm. He's like, brr, brr, brr. I'm sorry, you guys. You had to get the whole picture.
Yeah.
But so I'm at my nephew's birthday party today. It's his 3-year birthday.
Yeah.
3-year-old birthday party. And he had some little friends there. And my dad's phone rings. And the little boy jumps and he goes, I thought that was a fire alarm. And my nephew goes, that's just Papa's phone.
Ren is not going to be scared if a fire alarm actually goes off.
He's going to be like, where's my Papa?
Yeah.
Is he here somewhere? His phone's ringing. It's so cute. That's just my Papa's phone.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Okay, so back to, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram
There
at
you
That's
go.
What They Called News, and Twitter at That's News Pod. And if you have any story suggestions, send them to us at that'swhattheycallednews@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
We love you.
Goodbye.